It feels so good to be back.
I don't know if truer words have ever been spoken. How's it going, everybody? Thank you ahead of time. And I'm going to tell you why. Thank you ahead of time because I have not done my part in being consistent with this podcast. And even though things get in the way and life happens and all that stuff, I feel the biggest thing is we create our own barriers, mental barriers, or we create our own hurdles for one reason or another. Maybe it's human nature, maybe it's, I don't know, but whatever the case is, there's definitely a lot of that going on this side, and I have not done my part in that. So the reason why I'm thanking you guys ahead of time is for you guys tuning in. One of the biggest things that kills podcasts at any given point, starting, middle, whatever, is not releasing frequently. As a listener and a content creator, I have a responsibility to, as a content creator, I'll speak for, I have a responsibility to you to make sure that if I say I'm going to release an episode on X weekly, monthly, whatever it is, I need to fulfill that. And I haven't done my part. So for the people who are listening to this and the people who are returning, I want to thank you guys for sticking with us from my day ones to my new ones. I say it all the time. I've been more consistent on the video side of things with the YouTube channel. That's the Culture Punch Studios, if you guys want to check that out. But this is more so what I enjoy doing. Video is fun. There's a lot more things that go into production on the video side than it is just recording. And I forget how liberating it is to not have to be in front of camera and just being able to really present myself however I want while I'm doing a podcast. And like right now would be a perfectly good instance. I don't want to be in front of camera right now. For one reason or another, I don't want to be in front of camera. I just want to talk to you, and I can do that. And I enjoy it, and I've been neglecting it. So I want to thank you guys for sticking with us. I cannot say that enough. Now, starting off a little bit different, but I want to go ahead and hit the intro. Shouts out to Shay Adefeso. I know I let that one run a little longer. I love it, man. Don't you just love when you can put together a sound or you have this idea in your head, right? And you push that over to your producer, or you push that over to anyone who engineers music, and then they just make that dream or they make that sound come to life. Like that's what this is here, right? Oh man, I love it. I cut it right there at the drums. I love that. So Shay Adefeso, thank you for always contributing to the podcast. You know that I got you on here for a long time now, and all that production that you've done as far as making beats and stuff for me. I try to always, play that, push it out there, get your name out there. Not that you need it, but as a friend, I enjoy making sure that I put people's information and plugs. And so if I'm not mistaken, Shay 808 on Instagram, if you guys want to go follow him. Creeps on the Beats. He's also on Instagram, Facebook. He is the other one that has produced for this podcast. He's done a lot in the back end as far as helping me with sound as well as producing beats. So I want to make sure that I'm not forgetting my boy Creeps on the Beats on that one. So thank you guys. Other music, like stuff like this. Oh, wow. I didn't know that the other one was still going. There we go. See, that's an error on the podcasting side. But this lo-fi stuff, Epidemic Sound, okay? So make sure that you guys go check them out. I'm sure, if I'm not mistaken, they have a free subscription to Epidemic Sound, so you can test out like a test trial. I like them. I use them. They are great. I use them more for the video side of things. Again, when I narrate, I like to have underlining music, but what to he his own, or whatever they say. Oh man, that coffee's hitting different. All right, everyone. So we are back. And it's been a journey, man. I haven't realized that I didn't really release any episodes this year. And again, it's because I created my own hurdles. I'm creating hurdles on my own because I wanted the 100th episode to be so special. Now, in true honesty, I'll go back and look at this. This is the second or third time I'm recording this part of the intro. I didn't like the way it came out. I don't script my stuff. I know they say to script it, but I don't script my stuff because I want to be raw and I want genuine opinions and reactions to things. That's why I shoot from the hip. People will argue and say that that's wrong. That's how I do things. So for me, I could have already, I believe I spoke about this. I don't know if it was on this run or the last run, but I'm gonna speak anyway. So apologies if you've already heard this, if it made the cut twice, I guess. But I wanted to make the 100 episode so special. I had plans. My plan was to get a panel together because that seems to be some of the things that people are enjoying. Is to get a panel together and discuss everything that's going on around us in the world. So things from the transgender movement, the LGBTQ plus movement, and also discussing how relationship and dynamics have been or are working currently, because it's a lot of poison that's out there. There's a lot of disingenuousness, there's misinformation, there's all these things, right? We're back, and I've said this before in other episodes. There's always got to be a divide. Society always has to create a good guy and a bad guy, a face and a heel. There's always got to be a divide. Racism for the longest time was that big one. And I don't know if racism is coming down or they're just stacking the chips, but the arguments I hear no longer is about racism. It's about ideology. And Hobbs and I have said this before. I'm pretty sure Alyssa has come on and said this before. We live in a time where ideology, people's individual beliefs, morals, ideology are more present in who they are than ever before. People, the expression, I wear my heart on my sleeve, that almost, you could pertain that to, I wear my beliefs on my sleeve, because people truly don't, they don't associate themselves with people who think differently than them, because everything is an argument. There's no, we can get in one space, have a conversation, and then that be that. That time in history is gone. We can change that moving forward. Will it change? Probably not, the way things are going. But if you're not liberal, or if you don't believe, let's not even go liberal to conservative, right? If you don't support these movements, you're an extremist to the other side. That's how it always is. Or if you do support these movements, you're an extremist to the other side. See what I'm saying? So there's no, okay, you have these beliefs, but you believe in this. Okay, no problem, right? Like, we're still friends. It doesn't matter. There's no association with that. And there's no, I believe just in this little, no, you believe in that, automatic, you're a right-wing extremist or left-wing extremist. I was watching this video. I'm going to try to find it so I can pull it up. I'm going to try to find it. And in the video, it discusses exactly that this lady is just going off. This lady's just going off because this guy's like, no, I'm not an extremist. I fought in the war or whatever. I'm a veteran. He had a flag that was on his leg, and she was really going in on this dude. And I couldn't believe that because he carried a flag, it was such a representation of he's a right-wing extremist. To me, that was crazy. The other thing that kind of goes with that is, okay, here's the video. I found it. Ready? I'm going to play it for you guys.
Right-wing extremists are into that gender binary, which is very oppressive.
So I'm just going to, just really fast, I'm not a right-wing extremist. I'm actually a
United States... You have American flag on your shirt.
I'm a United States Air Force veteran. My parents are legal immigrants from the Middle East. I don't give into the right-wing. I'm not right-wing just because I just...
Check out this question, though. Like, check this question out.
Well, do you believe there are two genders?
Yes, I believe there's...
Well, then you're a right-wing extremist.
That has nothing to do with being right-wing. There's men and women. If some people have gender dysphoria...
Did you wear a mask during the pandemic?
I definitely did not wear a
mask.
Well,
then you are a right-wing extremist.
Oh, God, dude, I can't, like...
I'm getting very uncomfortable here. I'm already, risking my life being here that you're not wearing a mask.
This is a 4th grade teacher, by the way. And I'm going to play one more clip from her just because I want to show you what she says about allowing her 4th graders to essentially express their gender dysphoria. I don't know what you call it. Ready?
several students that actually are exploring their gender. I'm a fourth grade teacher here in Florida.
Oh my God. What school is that? So everybody listen. What school are you teaching?
Well, I teach it, I actually don't want to share that with you right now because right-wing extremists will come after me, but yes, I teach fourth grade, and I make sure that my students very much explore their gender. I actually bring in a basket for them to explore their gender, so they
Check
have
this
like
out.
hard hats and tiaras and jock straps so that they can try out different genders.
It's a costume. Do you hear that? It's a costume. But if you say that, if you say, oh, you're putting on woman face, you're putting on this, it's like, oh, I can't believe you said that. But even people who are pro that will say, I bring in hard hats and tiaras so they can try on that gender for the day. What? How do you defend that? You're probably going to retract. If I were to speak to someone that had these beliefs, I can almost guarantee that they're going to retract what they said because, well, that's not what I meant. Well, that's what you said. What did you mean then if it's not what you said? And then they're going to go on this spiel about how, well, actually it's not this, but this is an entryway for them to understand, okay, yeah, I feel more comfortable in this, I feel more comfortable in that. And really you're still arguing that it's dress up. So, yeah, I saw that and it just kind of like doubled down on what the way society is right now. Because this guy has a flag or is a veteran in the Air Force, the two questions she had was, do you believe there's two genders? He says yes. Then she goes, you're a right-wing extremist. The next one was, did you wear a mask during the pandemic? No, you're a right-wing extremist. To be able to answer and completely get a picture of what somebody is or represents or what their morals, values, ideology is with, we'll say one question, because it took her one question before she was like, yep, that's what you are. She categorized him or labeled him as such based off of one question. That's crazy to me. And if you notice, she didn't, you didn't see the video. They were at a distance. He looked like he was on stage and she was answering a question from some kind of chair. Like if it was, they could have been an interview. I don't know exactly what it was, man. They could have called on the crowd or whatever, but either way, there was distance between them. But I think that the end was a cop-out, and I don't really feel safe now because I think that is a cop-out as to saying, like, you know what? I'm going to say what I have to say, and then I'm going to say I'm not comfortable, so that way there's no rebuttal to what I just said. This seems to be a tactic that occurs a lot with people who align themselves with this ideology. During this whole pandemic thing, I started watching a lot of the Matt Walsh stuff, and I didn't like him at first. There's still a lot of things about him I'm not a big fan of. But I have to respect the things that he says because he makes valid points for certain things. When he's arguing something, he'll stick to his guns on the things that he's saying. He'll argue it and explain it. The one time that I felt like he didn't have a leg to stand on or felt a little bit as though he was retracting was his stance on marriage on the Joe Rogan podcast. That's only because it seemed as though he wanted to paint the picture of this is what marriage is and there's nothing else that comes in between it. And for those of you who don't know, his argument was the reason why you get married is to procreate. That is your responsibility. It's an institution to marriage. You get married so you can procreate. So Joe Rogan asks him, well, what about the people who don't want to have kids? And he goes, well, they're violating the institution was his argument. Then you can go on to say, what about the people who cannot have kids? Because the initial argument was, what about like same-sex marriages? And he said that violates the institution because, again, the reason you get married is to have kids. I believe he's religious. I'm not sure. I think he's Christian. But if you were to ask me about that and I was in his position, the institute of marriage, I would agree it is between a man and a woman. I don't necessarily care to argue, oh, should same-sex marriage be legal? As if you're going to preach in America, you're going to preach equality and you're going to preach fairness, I guess you can say, with equality comes with it. You have to be able to apply everything to everyone. So if you want to have same-sex marriages, that's fine. I don't necessarily have a problem with that because at the end of the day, God gives us free will. And this world was always going to be surrounded with things that are going to tempt us to do the wrong thing. But in the end, it's up to us as individuals for what choices we make. the sins that we commit are going to be written under our name in the book of life. No one else and no one else's opinions or actions are going to matter, regardless if we're not doing the right thing. So whatever the world is doing, let the world do what they're doing. You as an individual have a responsibility to yourself if you want to be saved and live everlasting. Then you have to live by God's rules, by God's laws. And one of those is not having same-sex marriage or same-sex relations. We are not here to judge people. We are here to spread a message. I can tell you that that's wrong, but I'm not going to dislike you for it. I have no problem with lesbian people, gay people, or anyone. I've always said this, I take everything case by case. And for me, how are you as an individual? Now, if you happen to be, let's say, trans, but you're very overbearing because you're very not over the top. What's the word I'm looking for? You know, when people are shoving things down your throat when you're not really asking them to, or you ask them a simple question and then they kind of get aggressive. That is a bad trait as an individual. Has nothing to do with your preference or your gender or anything like that. But people that you see in these spaces on social media who happen to identify with the alphabet people, excuse me again, sorry, who happen to identify with the alphabet people, they tend to be very aggressive, and that's a trait that I don't align with. I don't care what your beliefs are. I don't care what you do in life. It is your life. You have the free will to choose whatever you want to do. That's fine. But again, if you're like a terrible person, why? If you have terrible traits, I should say, not a terrible person, but if you have terrible traits to where you're very argumentative, or you're not easygoing or easy to talk to, why would I want to build or hold a relationship like that? I can tell another friend, a mutual friend, I don't really like that person. Doesn't mean I'm a bigot. Doesn't mean I'm XYZ. Doesn't mean I'm any of these things. It just means that you have terrible traits and I don't care to be around you. And that's the other thing that is now lost within this whole thing, because again, it comes down to one question. Are you alphabet friendly or or not? And if you say, well, bigot, extremist, even if there's, and you're trying to explain whatever, right? It's black and white, yes or no. That's how they look at it. And I think there's a lot of things, just like in anything in life, there's a lot of things that can play into or should play into the things we believe or take as facts or things like that. Most people don't do their research on a lot of things. And that goes for everyone. I'm not just, separating or calling one group out. I know a lot of people in my lifetime growing up that went to church that would take everything that the priest or the pastor would say as facts without reading the text, the Bible. And so even on that side of things, you have to do your due diligence. I don't know, for the people who have seen that video, you have to do your due diligence in order to be able to see if they're facts for yourself. So any church that says, I'm going to tell you this, go fact check me, that's a church you want to be a part of, because they're not hiding anything from you. But people who are like, oh, you got to believe what I say, and oh, you don't, if you look it up, that's show of bad faith. God doesn't like that. Those are the churches you got to stay away from. I can admit that from the Christian side of things, there is aggression on some people who are out there ministering. There's aggression, but it's right now is a very important time. And this isn't an excuse. I'm just saying it's a war right now. Christians with the world are at war. And so it's almost like matching energy. And I know there's going to be people out there that say, well, Christians are the one who started that first. They're the ones that were overbearing first. They're the ones that carry that title because they've had that for years. And if we're being totally honest, yeah, there's a lot of people who minister that way. I can't speak to why they do that or really think of any individuals at the moment that speak that way. But I can only assume that it's probably passion driven, and some people just don't understand how to get a message out when they feel as though they're the right party. And the reason why I say feel, I'm going to agree with Christians, obviously, but the reason why I say feel like they're the right party is because you can take this exact science or this exact habit and apply it to the way people argue now. You have the same arguments on the Fresh and Fit, on the whatever podcast, and all those bigger podcasts. You see that the more women will argue advocating for those groups with a lot of passion. And a lot of times it's very argumentative. There's no room for discussion. There's no room for cross debate either, because it just kind of goes back and forth. Some of these other podcasts do a good job of mitigating and mediating that stuff, right? So that way they can make sure that both parties are able to say what they want to say and get their point across. But it's hard. It's hard to really discuss or have that discussion because of how much passion people have for these subjects. The church is there to teach you God's word, what the Bible says. There's a lot of churches out there that will teach you otherwise, that'll say, we accept A, B, C, and D lifestyles. There's one thing to say that anyone is welcome to the church, and then there's another to not want to get canceled, like Joel Osteen, for example. He's a big one that has gone on TV and has not outright said that that God disagrees with homosexuality and things like that, because he's trying to protect his bottom line. You're going to have people like that. You're going to have people that take advantage of the system. So you got to understand that there are, on both sides, they're going to take advantage of it. So it's kind of one of those difficult things to really dissect, because a lot of people's examples are him. So they'll see that and they'll be like, oh, okay, now you're leading a new wave of Christians with the idea that I can be gay. I can live my lifestyle like this. Jesus says, come as you are, which is true. Come as you are. And I believe that if you truly do accept Jesus into your life and you abide by his laws, in sense of, I'm going to preach the gospel, and I'm going to let love fill my heart, and I'm going to but I'm going to push out to the world love, the energy of love. I think with all that, with having the Holy Spirit, Jesus praying, having that lifestyle, I think everything just kind of comes naturally. So if you live that homosexual lifestyle, it's going to gravitate naturally towards you ultimately, not being homosexual anymore. There's one thing that I heard. I wish I remembered the source that said this. It might have been my pastor at Skip Heidsieck, but he said, this pastor said, it's not against, God hates the sin, not the sinner. So, and I know I'm butchering this, okay, but he says, let me think. He says, all right, let me just give you the meat and potatoes, because I'm going around this. He says, if you're lesbian or you're homosexual, your sin comes from acting on it. So if you truly believe that you were born that way, and you mentally cannot, or you're wired that way mentally, and you cannot see a world outside or different from your preference of homosexuality or whatever it is, God loves you. He always will love you. But you believing that, the sin then comes from you acting on it. So if you never act on it, like if you never get in a relationship where it's almost like you give up. This is what they used to give up. This is what gay and lesbian people used to give up when they went to that lifestyle, is they gave up marriage as an institution. That was brought back, but that's the things that they were giving up. And they understood, we'll never be able to be married. The reason is because under God's law, marriage is between man and woman, and you know the rest. It's almost like the same thing. Like you can be on that, right? You can kind of like be together the way the society is saying, quote unquote, you can be together, but you can't get married. God's saying, if that's how you feel and that's how you believe, pray to me. We'll work on that. But I will accept you into the kingdom as long as you do not act on what you believe is right. So as long as you don't act on those urges, sexuality, you're good. It's just like not acting on masturbation or things of that. You're not gonna, if you don't act on those things, you're not committing the sin. You think about it, it's still adultery, sure, but imagine stacking the table. Adultery, and then masturbation. You see what I'm saying? So we want to minimize sin. I know I went into more of like a religious thing right there. That wasn't my intentions, trust me, but I did want to go ahead and throw that out there, because I know there's going to be the argument of, how pastors and priests minister, and there's going to be the argument of Joel Osteen. So you guys need to understand that, yes, there are people that are going to preach that it's okay, but the confusion or the line is, you come as you are, God will work on you. Don't think that you can come with that lifestyle and still live that lifestyle and call yourself a Christian, because that is lukewarm, as it's referred to in the Bible. And so, but I see a lot of these clips, and I'm going to try to see if I can pull up another one that I saw that I wanted to discuss, because I see a lot of these clips where a lot of people make some really dumb arguments online. And I don't understand those things. Like, this is the kind of society we live in, okay? This has nothing to do with it, but this is the society that we're in. Not everyone's like this, obviously, but it just goes to show you where people are putting their value in this life. Ready?
I opened it up, licked it.
Let's go.
I decided to drink mouthwash and gargle it back into the bottle and put it back on the shelf. We did this because we want our faces out there.
We wanted attention. There was literally no other reason besides us literally just wanting to be famous. We're definitely not going to stop here. If anything, we're just going to get more and more followers. I mean, I don't talk to my family. They're irrelevant. None of them have followers. If they got followers or got rich, I'd probably talk to them again. Now I have a career and I'm famous. That's what happens when you get famous. You cut people off.
Seriously?
And everyone's upset with it, maybe because you guys aren't relevant either, so you don't understand.
I'm going to pause that for a moment, because this, the caption says 2 Gen Zer trans activists. Okay, that's what these people are. To think that I'm not going to associate myself because this person doesn't have followers like me, I'm only going to associate myself with this circle of people who have followers. That's exactly the point that I was making earlier in the podcast. We can't be indifferent and be friends anymore, because you automatically, society is telling you have to run with the group that you fit into. Before, and this is just personal experience, and I know this could be the exception or whatever, but I saw a lot of this growing up, and this could just be where the time that I grew up. But I had many friends. I had friends that were considered jocks. I had friends that were considered theater geeks. I had friends that were considered metal or goth. I had friends that were considered nerds that did the whole Pokemon and stuff like that. I had friends that were a variety of things, stoner friends, people who smoked cigarettes. I had a variety of friends, and I didn't stop talking to them or stop hanging out with them because of that. Because that one caveat, where they're this, they're not, they don't align themselves with me, an athlete. Let's say for the people who smoke, right? They don't align themselves with me, an athlete, so I'm not going to be around that. No, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. Just like peer pressure. I'm not saying peer pressure is dumb, but I think that that's a cop-out in a lot of, well, let's not say a lot. Let's say at least half of the people who use peer pressure as an excuse is a cop-out, because instead of working on yourself to be mentally strong and being able to say no, we are giving that out automatically. So that gives us the green light to try or do whatever we want because peer pressure. See, I don't agree with that. And in my time, there was peer pressure going around just like in any time. But it was, again, comes down to the individual. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because it doesn't matter who's peer pressuring or what. They'll deal with their own judgment. But what are you going to do? I don't care about them. We're talking about you right now. See, so it's always going to come down to the individual. And I just think it's crazy that because of the society telling us that we can't be indifferent and be friends, we have people who run in these circles that, like this transer that's, you don't have followers. He's talking about his family. My family doesn't have followers. Maybe if they get followers, then we can be friends. That's crazy. Or then we could talk. That's crazy to me. Who thinks like that? Other than let me just finish this one because I want you guys to see the finish.
Maybe I'm out of sync, I guess, because I didn't know you till today.
Perfect.
I get it.
Because
all these people already knew me, right?
Yeah, see, that's crazy.
Damn.
That's crazy. But that's the mentality out there where you don't have this, you don't have that. So I'm not gonna deal with you. You see a lot of those. Is it Vice? It's Vice. The debates on Vice. If you guys haven't looked at them, go look at them. They have liberal Mexicans and conservative Mexicans on immigration. They have women discussing transgenderism. They have feminism. They have men talking about mental health, I believe. They have a bunch of, and it's a panel. So you get your people who are far left, you get people who are right, and you they debate. They're able to get into a debate. It's not, obviously you're going to have, things are going to be weird and stuff, but that is actually a good example to show you, because they're all content creators, or they're all in some way known, if I'm not mistaken. So that gives you an idea of where people's views are. And the reason why I enjoy these panels is because it reminds me of the conversations that you would have growing up. When I'm saying you, I mean me, that people can have these conversations. There's people who still truly believe in their beliefs, and then they will argue that on both sides. It's not like, we're going to argue and then you're going to convince me, because a lot of what goes on, and this is on both sides, is it's my truth, and there's no such thing. And they're not even listening to anything the opposition is saying. So there's no conversation. For example, I'm going to say something, and then immediately when I'm done, you start talking. I'm already thinking about the next thing to say, because I don't care from your point of view, because I'm right. That's my thought, right? So then I don't care what you're saying. I'm just thinking of my next point to make, to add weight to the last thing that I just said. And then I might pay attention for like the last 10 to 15 seconds of your conversation, or I might take little tidbits from what you're debating now, you're going back on, so that way I can rebuttal shortly, but then I'm going to still put weight on the conversation or the argument I had before you started talking. And that happens if you really pay attention. That's the formula. That's the formula to everything that's going on. Let me just aggressively say my point. Let's all get loud so no one understands from the viewer side what the heck is going on. And then we'll have some ending stuff, and then we'll have someone erupt with anger. And boom, there's views, there's content. And it just, I don't mind it. It just doesn't get us anywhere. The Whatever podcast does a better job, because you're not having like Myron or whatever his name is really going in hard on his point. It's more of a conversation. Myron is one of those, I'm going to tell you how it is and you got to listen. Now his viewers and his demographics different. So I'm not going in on him for that, because the people he brings on are the people who are looking to be with a high dollar man that don't deserve a high dollar man. And what I mean by deserve, because these are, obviously their words, is that they don't bring anything to the table. They just want, and expect to have. And that just wanting and not doing is a bad example, so that's his demographic. So he can speak on that because he has to be strong in that because of the world, that world and how it leads. It's another part that's wrong with society, is how men and women think things should be. Because these things, the way that these affect men is, if once you start making over $100,000, these guys are saying you have so much options. Why be faithful? Now, even though you're not directly saying these things, you're indirectly saying these things by your argument to the women who want these men. You see what I'm saying? So you can say, oh, I never said that. Right. But you're saying guys who make $100,000 can get, laid anytime they want. So what do you bring to the table that's going to stop them? And they're going to step out of the marriage. So you got to be okay with that. You got to be okay with that. And so now you're programming, or you're, conditioning these women to believe, oh, everything is like that. Now there's exceptions. Sure. This is the majority we're talking here, not the exceptions, but you slowly start to lose those exceptions, because you start hearing these kind of things. So you hear these kind of things and you say, oh, okay, women are they're already aware of it. So now if I just completely apply this lifestyle, they'll have to get used to it, because this is what they're seeing out. This is what the content is right now out in the world. That's the problem I have with the men arguing that side, is you're indirectly sending the wrong message, even though, again, there's exceptions. Sure, you guys don't speak to the exceptions, so that's why I don't speak too much on what you guys say, but it just seems odd to me. So then you have the women who are going to stand their ground, and I think this is more so because they hate when men prove them wrong, so they will never go back on what they say. Now, given there are some girls that I've seen go on Fresh and Fit that completely change their mind, which is crazy to see. But on the Whatever podcast, I feel like that's more of a, all right, well, you ask questions and I'm going to ask questions. Let's get some answers. Hold on. Answer my last one. And then it's a conversation back and forth. It's not an argument, so to say. So, I enjoy watching some of those Whatever podcasts, some of them, not all of them, but some of those Whatever podcast shows, because of how great I think they do at mitigating that stuff and making sure that the argument is pushed forward or whatever. But So these are things that are very, very, very prominent right now in the world. Things that I've been seeing this whole time, just kind of been sitting back, that I want to have a conversation with other people. I want to bring them in so they can give me their views, and I can give my stance from what, like, I'm going to give you an honest reaction to what you just said, and let's go back and have a conversation. Not, you're wrong. Okay, no, open conversation. Let's have it. So for people out there listening, get at me and let me know if you guys want to be a part of this. You don't have to be in the New Mexico area. You can call in. We can set up some calls so we can have you on the phone so we can do this, and I can set up some other people. And I'd like to get a variety of different people that actually aren't afraid to be devil's advocate or whatever. I have people on that will agree with me on everything. I don't need that. I want someone that's going to bring their view so I can, okay, here's what I say. Okay, I'm wrong. Why am I wrong? Okay, well, let me tell you, and then we go back and forth. That's the kind of thing that I wanted to do for the episode 100. Didn't happen, but again, no excuses. We just got to move forward and continue to create. So this is going to be the stepping stone. This right here is going to be the motivation to, if there was any, this right here is going to be the motivation, if there was any, to make sure that you're pushing forward with your podcast, either starting it or moving forward with it, regardless of what is going on in life. Do your thing. Don't let anything else interfere. Make a commitment, stick to your commitment, and have fun with it. Like I said, I'm not one that's like that. I'm not camera shy, but I don't like being in front of the camera. This is nice for me because I'm kicking back in the studio. I can wave my arms around, speak with my hands, my body as much as I want, and you guys have no idea. So for the people out there that are interested in some production stuff in terms of how things are made here at the Culture Punch Studios, make sure you go ahead and check out the YouTube channel, that's Culture Punch Studios. Go check that out because there are some channels there that will show some of the equipment that I use and some guides to maybe how you want to do things. There's also a podcast out there, which I'm probably going to redo, that I talked to a friend that he's interested in knowing what you need for a podcast. And now more so than ever, there's so many outlets that you can do, right? There's so many things. If you're not looking to make money off of it, it's easy to go to Anchor. Anchor, if you're ever to make money, they get a cut, right? They get a big cut out of it. That's why I don't use them. But there's other outlets that you can use, like Buzzsprout, that will allow you to just pay your monthly thing, and then your revenue stuff goes to you. And they actually help you partner up with sponsors. So there's a lot of outlets out there for you. If you guys have questions, get at me. That's Kid Culture, right? I believe that's my Instagram handle. Let me see. You know what? I should probably be on par with this stuff, right? I don't pay attention enough to this stuff. Let's see. We got... All right, so it's Kid Culture _ is the Instagram. Facebook, I'm on there as well. I'll just drop everything down on the bottom so you guys can go check that out. You guys can get at me and let me know what's up. But appreciate you guys for sticking around. Appreciate you guys for hearing my arguments or my rants on these things. This is just things that I've sat back and digested over the last 4 months, I would say. So it's something I really am passionate about talking about. So I'm hoping that I can have this conversation with others so we can get it all out. All the questions are asked. Maybe we do this on a live stream, because that was another thing that I considered for the 100th episode. Do a live stream so I can have people interacting in the comments so I can hear what you all are interested in talking about. So as always, thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to hit that music. Culture Punch Studios. I appreciate you guys. This is the Culture Punch podcast. You don't know who I am. I'm Kid Culture. So make sure you guys go and like anywhere you can this podcast. Go listen to this podcast because we're everywhere. So don't ignore us. Appreciate you guys. We're going to move forward. So thank you guys. Until next time, we're out, man. Peace.